everyone. It's your good friend Wendy, and you're listening to the Reaching Out with Reach podcast. This is the show that brings you discussions and topics surrounding our community, prevention, and recovery. On today's episode, we have the fabulous ladies from the Reach Across Johnson County Coalition. Welcome, ladies.
All right, Reach Across Johnson County is here to talk about alcohol myths. So alcohol abuse is one of the leading causes of preventable death in America, and April is known as Alcohol Awareness Month. It's just kind of a time for us to kind of think about, reflect, and start those conversations with our children and the youth that we see, and just kind of understanding how alcohol abuse can affect your life and the lives of the people that you love and that are around you. So unfortunately, not all the information we hear is true, so we are each going to kind of debunk a myth that we've commonly heard about. And Nikki is going to start us off.
So this one really surprised me. It's hangovers are caused by mixing drink types and drinking cheap liquor. I really thought like part of the reason why I would get a hangover or experience just not feeling good the day after drinking would be due to maybe not getting like the best alcohol at the bar. If I got like a well drink or a draft beer, I would think that that's what was causing me not to feel as well. But hangovers are caused by the amount of alcohol consumed and the rate at which it's consumed. So it more is on the decisions that you make and how much that you're putting into your body, not exactly the exact type of alcohol that you're choosing. Alcohol causes the body to produce more urine, which can lead to dehydration. Symptoms of dehydration include extra thirst, tiredness, headaches, dizziness, and lightheadedness. Alcohol can cause low blood sugars as well because the liver is unable to keep the levels regulated while also metabolizing the alcohol. This is what can cause you to feel extra tired or weak after drinking. So I guess that makes sense. As I've gotten older, I've really been good about really just trying to drink water and stay hydrated. I think that that's important. And, I've kind of discussed like a lot of the rage right now is getting the IVs afterwards and things where people are in areas where there's high drinking. I know like Vegas has the IV bars where you can go, and that's probably what helps, is really trying to keep hydration. Do y'all have anything to add about that? Have y'all thought that too, that maybe it is the different drinks or mixing that could cause your hangovers?
I know I used to think that, but I've also heard that from a lot of my younger friends that, oh, well, that's the reason you feel so bad is because you're drinking that cheap stuff. And yeah.
Or sugary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, or wine, and you hear wine, beer, all that, but more about being hydrated and not drinking too much consumed. Okay, next is Erica with her myth.
Hi, so it's been said that black coffee or a cold shower will sober someone up. But truth is that only produces a wide awake drunk. Only time will actually rid the body of the alcohol in your system. There's no known way to speed up the metabolic process, despite all the different myths surrounding that. How quickly your body processes alcohol depends on your weight, your gender, your body composition, your tolerance, and other factors. So on average, it takes around an hour for the body to process one drink, and that would be one actual serving, which is considered 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of liquor. So I know a lot of times they recommend the friend go with you to have some coffee or something afterwards just to help them sober up. But it's saying that really it's just like the time. I'm sure the food helps actually, but kind of absorb some of that, but that coffee absolutely does not.
I find that really interesting too.
Moving on to myth number 3. So I've heard people say this a lot. Sorry, and I've even said this myself. I don't have a problem with alcohol because I only drink on the weekends or I only drink at social gatherings or, I don't sit at home and drink by myself. I don't drink every day, so I'm okay. I don't have a problem. But you don't actually have to drink every day to have a problem with alcohol. So heavy drinking is a problem that we see a lot with, underage drinking, adults, the college age kids. It's kind of all around. And binge drinking is a certain type of heavy drinking that occurs in one sitting. So if you are a male and you have 5 or more drinks on one occasion, or if you're a female and have 4 or more drinks on an occasion, that's considered binge drinking. And so what you're doing is you kind of overload your body with this toxin of alcohol, and that causes blackouts, memory lapses. You might do or say things and not remember what you did the next day. And that can all cause problems, in your relationship or with your friends, with your job, or you can even get into legal trouble and not remember what happened. And so if you find yourself drinking excessively and facing consequences, you might have a problem with alcohol, even though you don't drink every single day.
It's interesting to go back and especially look at my pattern of drinking in college, and you just think that it's normal, but really, like you just said, there's binge drinking is really like the explanation of not remembering things or that kind of stuff, and just how it is so common and people don't want to realize that.
I would say it's especially common with our younger drinkers and underage drinking as well, because, it's happening at parties or college parties, whatever it is. And these kids are consuming a lot very quickly, and then it hits them like a train. And that's when, they start throwing up or passing out, blacking out, all of that, those negative consequences happen.
I wish there had been more education when I was younger about the full brain capacity and how, that it's still growing until 25, 26, because I feel like we didn't hear that when we were younger. And I try to make sure my kids are listening and hearing that over and over again, because I want them to be their full potential.
Do you think it's helped? Do you think your kids
Oh yeah, they
are
listen.
hearing that?
They definitely, they'll educate me and tell me things, or say, Mom, you made bad choices. That's probably why you're an airhead. And I'm like, probably so, just because I always tell them, who knows what my potential was.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So parents, it works. Talk to your kids.
It does.
Yeah.
They want to hear the facts.
Yeah.
They love science. Who's next?
Okay, hey, I'm Ashley, and myth number 4 is mixing alcohol with energy drinks is okay to do so. So this is like a really they're common drinks served on the menu from restaurants. Like the first thing that came to mind is like a Red Bull vodka situation. But even just, I feel like today, people are constantly drinking energy drinks throughout their day. And then let alone maybe later in the evening, or whenever during the day, they're having alcohol on top of that. And people might not be thinking anything of it, but it really isn't safe to consume due to the fact that alcohol is a depressant and caffeine is a stimulant. The caffeine sort of masks the effects of the alcohol, by like you might be more alert and have more energy because of that caffeine, while as the depressant and the alcohol is having these effects that you might not realize because of the caffeine. So you tend to overdrink and overconsume, which obviously just leads to more harmful effects from the alcohol, and just being more impaired. And then this can also just cause increased dehydration, sleep disruption, and even heart issues. So I thought that was pretty interesting, just since drinking both is so common. And yeah, I don't think people are aware that that really is harmful to you.
I think of all the kids that don't think anything of it when they order their first Vegas bomb or whatever. That was like always like that's a drink that a lot of people choose to order when they're first starting out drinking, first going to bars and things like that. And for it to have this effect and them not know it is pretty dangerous.
Well, I'm Sherry, and I've got the next myth. So, letting my teen drink at home under my supervision is safe. Well, while on the surface, this myth may seem like a creative way to keep your kids from driving drunk or showing them how to have a safe perspective on healthy drinking habits, it actually does the opposite. research has found that while the intention may be good, the tactics rarely work. When you allow your teenager to drink at home with you, all they learn is that it's okay for them to drink underage. And so we've had actually kids, we do a driving school, and sometimes we hear things like, well, if my parents think it's okay for me to drink at home, then I should be okay to drink at my friend's house. We're not going to drive or anything like that. So I think it sets kids up, uh, to have problem behavior. So I think as parents, we need to reinforce that, the drinking age is 21 and that you should wait, and that there's really, um, you know, even if they wait a little bit longer than 21, that's even better because of the developing brain. But, have that talk with your kids and to have consequences, if they do drink, and that there could be, problems, legal wise or health wise and things like that if they were to start drinking early.
So I've heard that a lot, but I have family that instantly came to mind with this myth that they have let their teenagers drink. And I've asked them about it. And yeah, they've literally said that I feel like if I have them drink here, then they won't be out there drinking. And as you were saying that, I was literally just thinking that it's probably just teaching them to form a habit of drinking the alcohol as they're just drinking at home with their family. They could even be forming some sort of an addiction while they're drinking at home with their family, then they're just going off later and doing it anyway. So, yeah, I can see this myth like playing out.
Well, and we hear a lot of times where parents say, well, again, I drank when I was younger and nothing happened and different things like that. And so I think we set kids up, if we have that mindset, I think we need to be firm about it, and it's zero tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I guess that brings us to our last myth, which is European parents let their kids drink from an early age so they don't have the alcohol-related problems that we do. The actual fact is that in Europe, youth have a higher intoxication rate than in the US. A quarter of Europe has lower or equivalent rates to the US, which means that 75% of Europe actually has much higher rates of drinking for youth. A greater percentage of youth in Europe report binge drinking at higher rates also than the States. Of course, this leads to youth in Europe as a whole having higher rates of alcohol-related problems due to heavy drinking, like drunk driving accidents, alcoholism, and even truancy. In the early 2000s, there was actually an increase in media campaigns because public health officials, know this is happening. So to try to counteract it, they created these media campaigns to encourage youth to decrease their consumption of alcohol, but they didn't really, communicate this to other sectors of the community. They didn't try to change the culture, the social norms. So these campaigns were relatively ineffective. The European region of the World Health Organization right now is currently in the middle of their strategic plan to decrease the use of alcohol among youth in various communities and countries in Europe. This has included partnering with sectors of local communities to change social norms around drinking and reduce access to alcohol, because access definitely plays a role also in community regulation of alcohol. They've made some headway. There are countries that have been able to reduce alcohol consumption a little bit, like Greece and the UK, but other countries in Italy are still trending up. So really, I think probably due to access, wherever we allow our youth, to drink in the home, then it just becomes a norm for them to drink outside of the home and have these issues. Even if it feels cultural and it feels very harmless and family oriented, these same problems still kind of come up.
So interesting. You always hear that over in Europe and places that it's a healthier version of drinking because they don't really have any laws and stipulations when it's actually the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And I was raised in a home that my parents, which I know that it's kind of generational, but there is alcoholism, and I wasn't aware of it when I was younger because they're, functioning. Um, but it was, I guess they say their excuses, well, you would have done it anyways. But would I have whenever it was introduced to me, at that way? Like, I think that especially having some kind of laws and rules, like Sherry said, zero tolerance, which is how of course, you always learn from your parents and how to, do things differently. But I remember at 15 having a party where there was a keg here at the house. Like, I cannot imagine even my kids being, Kendall's nearly 20 or she's 19 and not about to not be a teenager. And it's just crazy. Like, we went to Mexico and of course she was able to drink there. And that's the first time I've ever been around her drinking because I'm so strict with that. And I feel like you set the bar at what you expect from your kids. And maybe that the culture was just different in the 90s, for parents. But I like having discussions like this because it is so important.
Yeah, like alcohol, is something that's just so accessible and so mass produced. So while maybe back in the day when it was very homesteady, just having that little glass of wine, and that's really all you had access to. So there was no other opportunity. But things have definitely changed with the availability of alcohol and in the mass kind of awareness of the different types of alcohol and marketing. Thank you. I was like, what's that word? Marketing of alcohol as well has.
And as an
definitely.
adult, don't you look back and you think about my parents didn't drink like with the kids at the house, but I remember going to parties where the parents were like partying with the kids. Isn't that so cringe? Like, why were you wanting to hang out with youth? Like, did you not have your own friends? Just so weird. Like, I look back now and I'm like, how weird. And why didn't as a child, which my kids would totally be like, that's so cringy and weird. And now it is. It's like the adult that showed up on that movie Varsity Blues where he's trying to hang out and he'd been graduated like 15 years, it's like, you're a creeper.
Well, isn't that why I think once we got into prevention work, I think that's when I became like the light bulb went off because there's a lot of things that I wasn't totally aware of because I would have been one of those parents thought, well, as long as my kids drink at home, that they're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, now that we've been in prevention and we've learned all these studies and the research around it and everything, can you think about how many parents are out there that probably are thinking the same way that, as long as they're drinking at home or they're with us and I supervise and things like that it's okay. So I think that's where we have our work cut out for us on doing the education pieces and let parents know that, it's not acceptable. And think about if your kids go to somebody else's house, how would you feel if they were served alcohol?
Not happy.
Yeah. So,
and that's another thing too, is as a parent, it's our job to have discussions with other parents to make sure that our kids are monitored, that there are the same rules and values that you have as a parent in your home, because it's all about accessibility and who your kids and their peers are and who they're hanging around, because that's how you get introduced to ever having any kind of experiences to use of drugs or alcohol, right, is through peers. And so as a parent, it is our job to make sure that we know where our kids are going, what kind of parents, the kids are going to, and just make sure that they kind of follow your same rules and philosophies.
Well, I know a lot of communities too will have the social host ordinances in fact in place. And, these parents need to be aware that, if a kid wants to drink at their home and then they get out on the road, that they become liable for any accidents or injuries that they may cause.
Look at, here in Johnson County, the Ethan Couch story. And
yeah, that one hits home for sure. Yeah. All right. So just kind of as a recap, April is Alcohol Awareness Month. If you want more information on the effects of alcohol consumption, safe alcohol consumption, or how to start this conversation with your children, we will have resource links available in the description so you can look into things yourself and kind of plan how you want to handle this. on your side of things.
Thanks for all the great information, guys. You really debunked a lot of myths. Well, that about wraps up our episode. As always, if you're wondering how you can help, you can join our coalition meetings. You can also support our youth and family programs with a tax-deductible donation or food gift cards. And if you have any questions, you can email us at info@reachcouncil.org. That's info@reachcouncil.org. Or you can follow us at Reach Council on Facebook or Instagram. Thanks for listening to our show. Stay tuned for ongoing monthly podcasts from our Reach teams on all things prevention and recovery. So remember, life is full of choices, so choose happy and choose healthy. Bye.